A lot of my friends are surprised when I tell them that when I was a teenager, I was really a car guy. And I was a car guy because my dad was. My dad grew up in the boondocks north of Spokane, and he learned how to work on cars from his dad. And that was pretty much like, hand me this wrench, hand me that wrench. And then as he got older, he learned how to rebuild engines and do everything, fix them up. These are cars built in the 30s that he's working on in the 50s. Then in the 70s, when I'm a little kid, I think my dad saw American Graffiti because he bought a 57 Chevy Bel Air hardtop coupe, which kicks ass over those posts. No 4 doors. This is a 2-door. But like a lot of 20-year-old cars, it needed a lot of work. And so I didn't know this was a family tradition at the time, but I found myself in this cold barn handing him tools as he was rebuilding the front end. And I also had this distinct memory of him using the torque wrench to get the bolts just tight enough at the right torque, and saying, oh, wow, that's hard to read. And I remember laughing at him. I was like, what are you talking about? Every time I put on my reading glasses, I think of that kind of mean-spirited thought that I had. And so being a car guy, my father, he was happy to buy his first son a car for his 16th birthday. Not that my dad was wealthy. I grew up comfortable. But cars, well, that's just part of being, an independent adult. And it was a long conversation. What do you want? Well, I want a VW Bug. And the reason why I wanted a VW Bug was because the coolest kid in the neighborhood, that had been his car. And so I thought they were super cool. Of course, my brother, a year and a half younger, 10 years wiser, he wanted something that burned rubber from home to Silverdale, which was the town. He ended up getting a Fiat Spider convertible, which are cool cars, way cooler than Porsches. Porsche 917, I think it is, about the same price, but those barely run with the Fiat. That was cool. So I had the not so cool, but it was fun, VW. And this is not a Volkswagen or Ferrari story. It's Volkswagen to Subaru. So I had this Volkswagen, and of course, in 1986, a 20-some-year-old car, it needs work. And bought the book, which is How to Keep Your Volkswagen Alive. And my father was an electronics engineer, which means, of course, he knew how to figure it out to do it himself. Auto mechanics, training wild horses didn't work so well, but he did lots of other things. And he taught me engine mechanics. I was rebuilding carburetors. I was changing brakes. And then I had a careless moment, though. Crashed that car. And then I went off, did an exchange year, came back, went to college, carless. And then in my sophomore year of college, I said, I really need a car. I'm just stuck on campus, and it'd be nice to get out now and then. And my dad just kind of smiled, like, I knew you'd be saying that. So he helped me out. We bought then, so he and my mom had bought a kind of a 2 or 3 year old Subaru wagon. And it was a really great car. And he's like, you should get a Subaru. It'll be great. So I was like, okay. And so I bought a 78, this is 1989, bought a 78 Subaru 4-wheel drive wagon. This isn't the days before the all-wheel drive thing. No, this was a 2-wheel shift into 4-wheel kind of car. And those Keep Your Volkswagen Alive guys also have a Keep Your Subaru Alive. And it turns out those early Subarus were pretty much Volkswagens running backwards. The engine was in the front, but it was your flat 4 with a carburetor on top. It looked a lot like a Volkswagen engine. So I found myself changing a clutch, doing all kinds of stuff. And it was, pretty much the same as a Volkswagen, only sometimes the parts would be labeled in Japanese. And at one point, now this car had a lot of problems, and we knew it was deadly serious when we were changing the oil, and there were pieces of ring, a piston ring, falling into the pan. So that you have like 2 options. One is get rid of the car or rebuild the engine. Well, with Subarus, you have a third option, and that is buy a refurbished engine, because Japan doesn't really have junkyards. When someone crashes a car there, they part it out. So they have these crated up engines, and they sell them in Seattle. It was like $400. So we dropped this new engine in the Subaru, and it was great. It was running fine. I used it all over for like 3 or 4 years. And then I graduated from college in 91. I went to Germany, had adventures there. Actually, I think I told a story about that. And then when I came back, my dad gave me the car back, and he said, well, it's doing some weird stuff, but it should be good to drive across the country to Charlottesville, where I was from Seattle, where I was going to be going to graduate school. And so I loaded up all my stuff in there, and my girlfriend, now wife, and I got on I-90 where it starts in Seattle and headed west. And it was going great. Went through Montana, no problems. The only problems in Montana was finding a place to stay. If you don't know, in mid-August, the Sturgis motorcycle rally is a place to avoid. Now, when I say place, I mean a 300 or 400 mile radius around Sturgis, South Dakota is a place to avoid because there are just motorcycle guys everywhere filling up all the hotels. This is, before internet or even cell phones. I'm talking 1993. And so we slept in the parking lot of a Holiday Inn and then kept on going. And we crossed into Sioux City, and somehow pulling into Sioux City, the car popped a cork in the sense that now whenever I let my foot off the gas at a stop sign, it would die. So I needed kind of 3 feet to drive this manual. Keep one foot on the gas, the clutch, brake, kind of all at the same time. And I got to Charlottesville, and then I had to sell it a couple years later. And advertising it for $200, I got a lot of stupid questions like, can I use it as a commuter car? Can I drive to Florida? I'm like, no. Do you have tools? No, you don't want this car. And then this guy came, and he loved Subarus. He had a trailer with Subarus all around it. I'm sure we all know a guy like that. And he was like, fuck, great. I'm quoting speech. Fuck, great. Subarus, oh yeah, I love these Subarus. My wife told me I had to get rid of some Subarus or she would leave, and I loved her, but I love Subarus more. And, and he's starting the car, and it doesn't really run that well at all. And he's like, Mad Hatter, what's that? It had a sticker in it. And it's this skeleton guy. And I'm like, oh, that's the speed metal band that my brother was in. He's like, speed metal? I love speed metal. I love speed metal almost as much as Subarus. And I'm like, dude, okay, I'm selling this car. And I said, I tell you what, you give me $200, I'll throw in a Mad Hatter tape. And he said, oh, fuck, dude, I don't have $200 right now, but I can get it to you. And I'm like, I'll wait. And so surely the next day, he had gone in his couch. He had these wadded up $20 bills. And he gave me $200, and I gave him the Mad Hatter tape and the title to that Subaru, and he drove it away, and it was still running. Those cars run forever. Oh, thank you.